Hi, and welcome to the screencast on skin. If you've watched any other screencasts, this is a newer version of the software, and there's a little video of me down there. Hopefully that's not too distracting. So we're going to start skin with one of your possible essay questions, which is to list the functions of the integumentary system. There are going to be six functions. The first function is protection, and then, so I should say you have to explain. In addition to saying protection, you need to be able to list that there is both chemical and physical protection provided by the skin, and we are not going to worry about the biological barriers. The second function, if I can get PowerPoint to work, there we go, is body temperature regulation, and you have to list either sweating or regulation of blood flow as body temperature regulation. Sweating you already understand. The way regulation of blood flow helps you cool down or helps regulate your body temperature is that if you are hot, more blood is sent to your skin, and then you radiate out heat that came from internally. If you are cold, then less blood is sent to your skin so that you keep all of your heat more deep inside your body. 3 is cutaneous sensations, which you need not expound upon. Sensation is sensation. The fourth function is metabolic functions. There are several. I would like you to be able to list producing vitamins D, or a chemical that is a precursor to vitamin D. It's also called the sunshine chemical. There's a chemical reaction that takes place in your skin because of the energy made available to it by the UV rays of the sun. So the blood reservoir part just means, and you want to be able to say on the essay question, that up to 5% of your body's blood can be stored in the skin. So you want to think of this in terms of if you're super duper hydrated, your blood volume goes way up. And you don't want your blood pressure to go up and down dramatically with your hydration state, so your skin can serve as a reservoir for your blood volume. And then excretion, just be able to say excretion and say primarily that it is nitrogenous wastes that are excreted in the sweat. This is urea, which is a byproduct of when you break down proteins for energy, as opposed to incorporating proteins into your body by building your muscles bigger or making enzymes. Let's see, the skin is going to be composed, or is composed, of 3 different regions. You know this already from lab. I won't ask any questions about them on the exam. We are going to skip down to the cells that you find in the epidermis, and then we're going to go through all the different layers of the epidermis, starting at the bottom and working our way to the top. On this slide, you just want to pay attention to the function of the different cells in the epidermis. So keratinocyte is the major structural cell type of your epidermis, and it provides protection. Then you have melanocytes, which you already know produce the pigment melanin. You have Langerhans cells, which we are now calling dendritic cells. They are macrophages, so they're part of your immune system, and they can phagocytize or eat and digest bacteria and viruses in and on your skin. Then you have tactile cells, or what used to be called Merkel discs, which are another form of touch receptor. So as we go through the different layers of the epidermis, you just want to be able to match the description with the layer. These aren't essay questions. Paying attention to important functions and cell types that are located in each layer of the epidermis. So we are starting down here at the bottom with the stratum basale. This is, as it says here, also called the stratum germinativum because it germinates or grows. So this is where most of your mitosis takes place, and it's where all your keratinocytes are born. You also want to know that this is where you find your melanocytes and your Merkel cells. The next layer up from that, so this layer right here, is the stratum spinosum. The important thing to remember about the stratum spinosum is that this is where most of the melanin actually accumulates. so that you have melanin in this layer here just above the basale where all of the mitosis is taking place. So the idea is that the melanin protects the cells underneath it from UV radiation. Then you have the stratum granulosum. This is where you have an accumulation of what are called keratohyalin granules, which I probably will not ask you about. More importantly, what you want to know is these granules, which are a combination of protein and lipid, form a water barrier. So this is the layer of your skin that tries to keep you from dehydrating. Then you have the stratum lucidum, which is this layer right here. Lucid means light, so this is the light layer and is found only in thick skin because it is this light skin cell layer in between the stratum corneum and the stratum granulosum. Then you have the stratum corneum, which is found typically only on thick skin, and it is, as it says here, many rows of dead keratinocytes, which functions to protect you from abrasion and penetration of your skin. Right. And the dermis we don't care about, so I have nothing to say about this slide. I have nothing to say about that slide. So now we are out of the dermis and talking for a moment about skin color. So you know already melanin is a pigment. It's in your skin. It is reddish brown to black depending on how much of it you have. What you need to know about it is that it protects you from UV light, or it protects your stratum basale from UV light. There are other pigments or other substances within your skin that give it color. One is keratin or beta carotene. It is yellow and orange in color and usually shows up in your palms, or is more prevalent or easy to see in your palms. And then also hemoglobin, even though it's not considered a pigment, because it is colored, does give that rosy hue to your skin. So now we're still kind of down in the dermis, but we're talking about structures within the dermis that are derived from the epidermis. So this is where parts of what was on the surface grew down or invaginated into the dermis and developed into different structures. So first up is sweat glands. We're going to have two different kinds of sweat glands. The first is the eccrine sweat gland. This is your traditional sweat gland that produces mostly water, a little bit of salt, and some waste products, and its job is thermoregulation. Oh, whoops, sorry about that. There we go. There's a picture of a sweat gland. Then the second type of sweat gland is called the apocrine gland. This produces, or I should say first, is confined to your axillary and anogenital region, so armpits and groin. It produces a combination of regular sweat plus sebum, so it's oil and proteins. This, by the way, if you wanted to know, is where your body odor comes from. Not from the sweat so much, but from the bacteria. Ignore that, sorry. The bacteria that live on your skin eat and metabolize the fatty substances and proteins in your sebum, and then the breakdown products from that bacterial metabolism is what produces your body odor. You also want to know that these two glands are derivatives of your apocrine glands. So the wax glands in your ear, or ceruminous glands, and the mammary glands are both derived from apocrine glands. Then your sebaceous glands, as we said in lab, are not sweat glands, they are oil glands. And you want to know that what they produce is called sebum, and it is somewhat bactericidal, so it helps keep too much bacteria from growing on your skin. And then it also softens the hair and skin. So it's actually part of your protective mechanisms. It keeps your skin soft so it doesn't crack, because whenever your skin cracks, that's a potential route for infection. Hair, you just want to know, is dead skin cells, and the same pigment that gives your skin color gives your hair color. And then once you stop producing it, you go gray or white. Let's see, we don't care about different types of hair. Thinning and baldness, just know that alopecia is called spot baldness. It is a form of baldness that can happen in both men and women. And then true or frank baldness is what most people think of as male pattern baldness, because it is enhanced or made worse by testosterone. Then we get to skin cancer. We don't care about the risk factors. You know that already. Don't get too much sun. Don't spend too much time in the tanning beds. So we're going to go over 3 different types of skin cancer. What you want to know is which cell type or which cell layer of the skin the cancer originates in and how aggressive it is. So we're starting with the least aggressive form of skin cancer called basal cell carcinoma, which originates in the stratum basale. So the cells that actually whose job it is to divide all the time divide too much, and you get these basal cell tumors, which, as this says right here, they can surgically remove them, and 99% of the time there's no problem. So they stay as a tightly packed ball that is then easily removed, and that is a basal cell carcinoma right there. Then you have squamous cell carcinoma, which develops in the keratinocytes of the stratum spinosum. For whatever reason, it is more common on your scalp, ears, and hands. It is more aggressive than basal cell carcinoma, but not as aggressive as our 3rd type of cancer, which is, whoops, there's a picture, melanoma. Melanoma originates in your melanocytes. It is, of the 3 types of cancer, the most aggressive, and by aggressive we mean it is most likely to leave your skin, possibly end up in a bloodstream, and then travel somewhere else and set up a new tumor somewhere else in your body. So that's what metastasis is when cells from a tumor leave the tumor and they enter either the lymphatic system or your circulatory system, your blood vessels, and then crawl out in another part of your body and start a new tumor. So melanoma is the most aggressive and resistant to chemotherapy. And as this says here, they just try and catch it early and surgically excise it before it can leave the epidermis and invade the dermis. What you want to know about melanoma, although I don't usually have time to ask this on the exam, is these 4 characteristics that people look for to decide whether or not a growth is potentially carcinogenic or something to worry about. So if it's not round or perfectly oval, if it has some asymmetry, that's bad. If it has an irregular border, again, think of a raisin versus a grape. That's an irregular border. That's bad. If it is too dark, very dark, I should say, like black and red, or the color is not regular, so it's splotchy, a couple different colors, that is also a bad sign. And then once it gets bigger than the size of a pencil eraser, that is a bad sign as well. And mostly just to be on the safe side, almost anytime you go to the dermatologist with, I think they call it a nevus or some little growth, they just nick it and remove it, because better safe than sorry. And there is a rather ugly looking melanoma, which you can see has gotten large. It has an irregular border. It is dark in places, red in places, splotchy looking. That is not a good sign. Burns. Oh, do we even care about burns? Oh, I suppose we do. Let's see. So you just want to know 1st degree burn is damage to the epidermis only. 2nd degree burn, you have gotten down into the dermis a little bit, and here you might have some blistering occurring as well. And then a 3rd, sorry, I know I'm going really quick. A 3rd degree burn goes through all 3 layers of the skin, so you're down into the hypodermis or below. Oddly enough, because the burn kills off all the nerve endings, 3rd degree burns are not painful at first. So that is it. That should be the whole chapter. There's an ugly 3rd degree burn. We're not going to worry about severity of burns. So that's the end of the chapter. We made it in under 15 minutes. So that's it. See you in class.